had enough. I thought you were on a diet. Yep, and I still have one more s'mores to go. Wait, s'mores are filled with sugar. You can't lose weight eating sugar. Sure can. I'm already down 40 pounds. With so much diet advice out there, it's no wonder so many of us are confused about what to eat to get rid of the gooey fluff around our middle. After regaining half of what I lost with keto, I said, screw it. I'm eating s'mores. Okay, so maybe that's not exactly how it went down. Because after my scale shot back up, no matter how much I ketoed or how hard I fasted, I was desperate to take off the weight. But it didn't matter how strict I was with all of the no sugar, no junk food advice floating around the internet, because my scale just kept going up. One of the biggest lessons I learned after 30 years of yo-yo diet is that depriving myself of everything I love never works. I mean, sure, maybe I could white knuckle my way through a week or two, or even a few months when I was really stubborn. But going into a diet with the mindset that specific foods are off limits is a plan that is waiting to backfire. It might not be today, maybe not tomorrow, but sooner or later, that plate of s'mores will start calling your name. And by the time you look up to answer, it's already too late. Because there you are, surrounded by graham cracker crumbs and chocolate wrappers with gooey stuff dripping off your chin. And you don't even know how you got there. If this sounds familiar, then you've also spent years or maybe even decades in overly restricted diets. Diets that teach you to drastically slash calories while avoiding all sugar and all carbs, and then you beat yourself into the ground with cardio. And once that abusive cycle isn't enough to keep your scale moving, these diets tell you to do more of the same, only this time do it harder. I know all about this cycle of abuse since I was stuck in it for decades. Take s'mores as an example. I avoided s'mores or anything resembling s'mores for over half a decade, and I had to avoid these foods because of evil sugar. Okay, we got it. But after reflecting about what really held me back, I figured out that sugar was never really the villain. In fact, making everything I craved strictly off limits was exactly the thing that kept me stuck and yo-yoing weight, because whenever I told myself that I couldn't have any s'mores, suddenly all I could think about was marshmallowy goodness stuffed between graham crackers and melted chocolate. Not only could I not stop thinking about s'mores, but now s'mores was all I could think about. And I'd think about them and obsess about them until I finally snapped and find myself building a campfire just to have one freaking s'more. You know, putting them in a toaster oven might be a little bit easier. Just saying. Only I couldn't stop myself at one s'more, because now that I deprived myself of s'mores for so long, I had to have as many s'mores as I could shove into my face. Especially since who knows the next time I'd even allow myself s'mores. And whether s'mores are your weakness or it's something else entirely, once you swear off of your favorite food, how long before you find yourself face first in an empty bag and you're not even sure how you got there? Now, maybe you're watching with skepticism thinking, okay, I've tried this before, but I always fall off the wagon because once I start eating sugar, I can't stop. In past diets, I struggled with having any sugar, especially early in the day, because once I had a small taste, I'd find myself craving more all day long. And I'd only last so long before giving into those cravings while completely blowing my diet. But banning my favorite foods never lasted long either, so what's the answer? After starting a flexible diet 2 years ago, I was scared of any carbs. I thought the second that I had an apple or enjoyed a baked potato with dinner, that I would be ravenously hungry for the rest of the day. But my hormones were a mess and keto wasn't working anyway, so I started adding more real food carbs to my diet. At the beginning, I waited until later in the day after filling myself up with plenty of protein and other low-carb foods that kept hunger low. Through trial and error, I figured out that I could get away with eating more carbs as long as I didn't eat them too early and only when I started every meal with protein. And eventually, I got really brave because I enjoyed all kinds of savory and crunchy treats after dinner, but only if I had room in my calorie budget. Since I focused on low-calorie, nutrient-dense foods during the day, I pretty much always had room for a treat. But something else happened once enjoying my favorite foods became a nightly ritual. I no longer felt the urge to completely blow my diet, because if I had any cravings during the day, instead of immediately giving in, I knew that if I ate enough of the good stuff early, that I'd have room in my calorie budget to satisfy my craving later that night. And having the ability to eat pretty much any food I want while still getting results makes my diet worth sticking to, which means I no longer have to suffer for weeks at a time, struggling to drop 5 or 10 pounds only to regain everything back once I can no longer stick to a strict plan. And whenever I eat something I love, like s'mores, I no longer feel the need to gorge myself into misery. I eat whatever amount fits into my calorie budget, and if I want more, then I just save room tomorrow. Plus, getting rid of all of the guilt and shame around eating certain foods has been life changing. You might even say that allowing s'mores into my plan is key to keeping me on track, because I no longer feel tied to any made up diet rules. I eat nutrient dense foods during the day and then enjoy life as it's meant to be enjoyed at night, with plenty of gooey s'mores. Of course, just eating s'mores isn't helping anyone lose weight, because you gotta make sure that you stay satiated enough during the day in order to have leftover calories at night. But that's way easier said than done. I mean, unless you follow this easy trick that completely zaps my hunger. Because when you don't have to deal with constant hunger pain, that's when it is so much easier to reach your goals.